I want to talk about this, and this will probably be the last thing I bring up before we start to close out. Kate is a morally compromised character. Kate
Yes.
is willing to take the high ground so long as she's not under attack or duress in any way. And the minute things start to get hard for her, she gives up. And then she leans on Joe to do her dirty work for her. But then she sees, as you put it before, but then she sees Joe as also,
Liability.
well, morally bankrupt.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's funny because I threw it to ChatGPT. I said, "I need talking points. We're kind of running out of stuff to talk about." And one of the things that it threw at me was, let me see, the mirror image thing between Louise and Joe, and Louise posing as Bronte to trap Joe mirrors how Joe has manipulated identities for 5 seasons. And I was like, I don't think that Louise is the mirror image of Joe. I think Kate is.
Yeah. More so Kate was, because it's when she started, because it all starts with her being attacked for a some kind, I think it was like a cancer research or something that killed a bunch of kids, and she wants to keep it secret because she's got an image to protect.
Right.
Well, as soon as that even she gets whiff of that's a possibility to be exposed, she turns to Joe. I need you to take care of this. And then once he takes care of it, to save him and her and the kid, to make sure that they're like, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe you've done that.
Right.
It's like no, she wants to reap the rewards, but not the accountability. And it goes back to where she killed the kids.
She's so that partner of, the partner that comes to you and tells you about all of her problems, but doesn't want any solutions.
Yeah, when you give a solution, it's like, oh my God, how can you say?
Do you remember when we talked about White Men Can't Jump, and we were talking about that scene with Rosie Perez, and she was like, "No, Billy, when I tell you that I'm thirsty, I don't want you to bring me a glass of water.
Right? Yeah.
I want you to feel how thirsty I am. I want you to empathize with my thirst." And Woody Harrelson's like, "You're thirsty, drink water, you dumb bitch. What's wrong with you?"
Right. I mean, that's how God's wired. That we take things at face value. We don't try to read into stuff. We can't read minds.
Kate's like, I want you to clean up my mess, but I don't want to face the fact that you cleaned up my mess. I don't want to know. I want plausible deniability because I want to maintain my perceived or projected moral purity. Like, again, she's not a moral person. She is morally bankrupt. I think even more so than Joe. Because here's the thing. Every man must have a code, speaking of The Wire. When Joe kills, he very rarely kills out of necessarily passion. It's either self-defense or it's to eliminate an obstacle. But it's essentially he just does a math problem, and the problem ends with murder. Okay? Solve for X is murder. And that's it. This is as much passion as he's going to put into this. She, on the other hand, feels all of these things and wants them, but doesn't want to deal with the consequences of them. Like, for her, I think Joe knows Joe's coming from the standpoint of view when he murders somebody of, in order to make an omelet, you got to break a few eggs. I don't even think she cares that much. Her caring is directly related to what the consequences of doing the action might be. So I only care about this because I might get caught and lose everything, or this might make me look bad. That's the whole thing with Kate, and I think there's a lot of jealousy with Kate and Joe, where Kate envies the fact that Joe can move through the world unburdened, and she is so burdened by the chains of indecisiveness that she takes it out on Joe that he can move in the world so freely.
And the fact that Joe has, Joe's like, and I want to say this as a joke, but Joe's like every other man. We're dead inside. And the fact that he can do stuff for those that he loves, to protect the ones he loves, and without remorse. I mean, Joe has no remorse what he does to
I'm sorry.
protect those he loves.
Your audio is not great tonight, so in case everyone missed it, I want to make sure it's said because it's the best line of this entire show. Joe's like every other man, dead inside.
Yeah, I mean, we are. We protect those we love without repercussion.
Yeah.
And we'll do that. But Kate is basically she's envious of that because Joe is so unburdened by what he has to do to protect his family, and she's like a guilty conscience. She like you said earlier, she wants everything handed to her, but she doesn't want to get her hands dirty doing it.
You know, it's funny. I was having a conversation with my girlfriend both last night and tonight, and I said, I know women want, they want gifts and they want getaways and they want expensive dinners and they want romance. They want rose petals and flowers and, bubble baths and they want to be catered to and taken care of and, given without need of reciprocity. And I said, you know what the most romantic thing I want is to help you sort your mail because you haven't gone through it for the last 6 months.
Or, or even better yet, and we get into this all the time. You know what makes a lot of guys happy? Peace and quiet. If you can get an hour of peace and quiet, you're a happy person.
I said something very similar. I said I don't need much. Take a thing off my plate, just one. Any one thing off my plate.
Yeah, just pick something.
Yeah, handle a thing for me, and I will do everything. I don't care if the relationship is 2 to 98. Take the 2.
Yeah, I mean, and that's goes for a lot of guys. And it goes back to the meme. I see the meme. It says you work 40 hours a week and you come home and this is what you have, and it's got like some fries and chicken nuggets and everything. It says, would you be upset? Hell no, I love me some chicken nuggets and fries. You give me 10 minutes to eat my chicken nuggets and fries without bothering me, I'm all yours the rest of the weekend.
I'm grateful to not have to make it myself.
Right. And I'm grateful and not have to deal with some fast food worker that's going to screw my order up anyway.
Yeah. So all of that to say, Kate wants and wants and wants from Joe. And then Joe's like, okay, well, love me now. And she's like, no, I think you're terrible.
I think you're
what an interesting and familiar dynamic. I'm so glad I went to ChatGPT because it got us on this kick. What a great and wonderful dynamic this is. Do for me. I will do for you, my queen. I have done for you, my queen. Do you love me now? No, it's not enough. Do more. All right. I will do twice as much for you. I will do 3 times as much. Now will you love me?
No.
I am burdened by your request for love. What will it take, my queen? What will it take? Nothing. I think you're done now. You've done so much for me. I think you're terrible.
Yeah, and that's society as a whole now. And I seen this on a podcast, the Whatever podcast. It's like they was talking. If nobody's not familiar, it's got all these. It's basically a conservative podcast that has all these like OF girls on it trying to defend why they do OF.
Oh, is this the one with the young guys? They're at a long table. It's the guys on one side, the chicks on the other.
Yes, that's the Whatever podcast. Is that
what that is? I see it comes up on my TikTok all the time.
Yeah, that's the Whatever podcast. It's a great podcast. Highly recommend you listen to it. But I got sidetracked. But anyway, it's it goes back to
welcome to Old Man Discovers Social Media.
No, it goes back to the fact that women complain that men are too toxic, too masculine, and everything. But then they go back and say, well, no guys are approaching me. Why can't I get attention? And it's like, well, you said that's not what you want. So guys said, okay, we'll give you that. And now you're bitching because we give you exactly what you want and you're not happy.
And that is a great succinct explanation of the Kate-Joe relationship. Kate says, gimme. Joe says, here. Then she complains that Joe said here. And then we wonder why then Joe took the first hobbit that happened to crawl into his life.
Literally crawled into his life.
He's like, listen, not to get too personal, but at a time when Melissa and I were, even before all the open poly stuff, at a time where we were not doing great, she was highly depressed. Like, she wanted nothing to do with me. She really wanted nothing to do with the kids. She was just crying in the room all the time. And then she wondered why I got a thrill from whatever attention I got at work. Not that it went anywhere, not that I would do anything, because I would have never cheated on my wife. But, there were a handful of girls that I worked with, nurses, the most toxic people you could ever come across.
I will fully agree. If you haven't seen the meme I put, it says what we thought whores looked like and what they actually looked like, and it shows prostitutes, and then it shows nurses.
Nurses, the walking red flag.
Yeah.
But I work with a lot of young women at my former place of employment, and they were giving me a lot of attention, just short of sexual, and I loved it because it was the only attention I was getting. Would I have preferred it from Melissa? 110%. Was I going to get it from Melissa? Not that time. Which goes back to the whole Joe thing, was I'm giving, I'm getting nothing back, and a man can't live on leaves alone.
Right. And I fully agree with that. And it's like the old adage of, I say jump, you say how high. Now with women, it's I say jump, you jump and ask if it's high enough.
All right. Anything else that you want to talk about before we close out for the night? Because I pretty much covered all the stuff I had to say about this show before we spend another hour on toxic relationships.
No, I think we can wrap it up in a tight 1 hour podcast, because this, like I said, this season went out in a fizzle. If this was more like season 1 or 2 and had that superior writing, we could probably go on and on. But this was very lackluster. It was very social commentary.
I was going to say, this is like the post-feminism woke version of nailing Jesus to the cross, and Jesus is a toxic male.
Oh, I thought you were just going to say nailing Jesus, and I was like, this took a really dark turn, Mark.
Look what happened to Joe. Look, everything that happens to Joe feels like, the Passion of the Christ. It's like just Jesus walking, and everyone's like throwing shit at him.
Okay, so there's a TikTok clip. Joe is comparing Joe Goldberg to Jesus Christ. Joe Goldberg is toxic Jesus. Okay, we got a TikTok clip. There we go.
The title of this TikTok is the passion of toxic Jesus.
The passion of Joe Goldberg, toxic Jesus.
Perfect.
Oh,
alrighty. Well,